So that was about a relationship in the first bloom, when everything is going right. In my particular relationship, we've passed that stage. I'm never right. The best I can do is that sometimes I'm not wrong. This poem is called Two People Living Together. It is not possible for two people to live together a very long time without one killing the other. Save for the deterrent of capital punishment when young and the pandemic of easy distractions when old. So Vic providentially lives another day. One in which a light was found burning stupidly in a vacant bathroom and an empty water glass abandoned next to the bed when obviously it belonged in the kitchen sink. Evening fills a chair in front of the television with his celebrity, finally content to let others talk for a while. Commercials wear passion down, eyes tire of the news. How well he suffers the exhaustion of perfection. The dark hour sends him to bed with a kiss, the perfunctory blessing to take care as the stairs are steep and treacherous at night. The polish so thick and so precisely buffed onto each goddamn step. This is another relationship poem called Shooting Star. It was only the promise of a miracle, but that was enough to keep us cold and looking up to watch the dark page of each hour turn in that December night. We searched for the fiery homecoming of just one of the many stones unable to decide at creation which world to join, and so wander heaven aimlessly until seduced by some planet's diamond kiss. The first flew over as we looked toward our pockets and fumbled for change to gain a drunken blessing from a man whose only hand asked out of habit. We missed the next when a teenage boy drove by shouting a name with which he meant to hurt us, but which was our name exactly, and lifted our mouths into a smile as certitude lifts the weighted wings of birds. Our miracle was modest. We looked for a single falling star like so many we had seen before and different from all the others, whose beauty, though expected, would still surprise us in the perfection of the curve of its fall and quiet the squabbling words that rose into a wall between us all day. It was all that, and a blazing scratch across the frosted cheek of night, lasting as long as the cloud of breath that held your name in the streetlight, as long as the streak of wet my tongue made to lick the salt off your arm. I have a theory which I proffer to my students. You're not my students, but I want to give it to you. It's about the meaning of life. Because, and I say this with all due modesty, I know the meaning of life. And I want you to know that you know the meaning of life too. As you may have guessed, it's a little bit hard to explain. But poetry is the vehicle by which we talk about it to each other. So when someone reads a poem and they hit the truth, you react. You go, ah, and you nod your head. That's your recognition that you've touched the meaning of life. See that?
Thank you.
You receive that with much less pain than my students. This poem is about an Indian band that is the Indian group in the county where I came from, the Central Valley, Kings County. That group is called the Tachi. And they, I can remember my grandfather taking me to their reservation when I was just a little boy. It was the most desolate piece of land in the whole county. It couldn't grow anything, alkaline, packed up like this. And this was the way that, they existed there until recently. This is a poem about them. God Comes to the Tachi. By the time the army came to take them to the place no one else wanted, the Tachi already knew Jesus, but believed he was a God who lived in Mexico. God's name changed many times: U.S. Congress, Southern Pacific, Standard Oil, Boswell. But the Tachi remained ignorant of the prayers that would bring sustenance to their thirsty land. Without the right prayer, they became lost, though they stayed in no more than one place. In time, no one asked where the Tachi had gone. Not even God always remembered. But the Tachi never lost love for each other, a devotion which God could not ignore, and so gave them commandments writ on vellum, the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. Accordingly, the Tachi built a sacred palace where the faithful congregate day and night, humble in attitude, hands rich in prayer, and lo, the blessed air fills with the names of God. This is a poem, a nod to our friends in Los Angeles, I guess. Laurence Olivier's Hamlet. He is 41, his mother 28. Already blonder than Denmark, there isn't enough dye left in the bottle to turn him into a schoolboy. Sweet prince of the theater before the movies, he has a taste for lace cuffs and intricate embroidery, but dons simple tights in every scene, fittingly blank for mourning a father. It's the classic story. The father, too preoccupied with work to notice that his bored wife is occupied by his younger brother. Indifferent to the family business, the overprotected son parties away at college, perennially shy of graduation credits. When his father dies unexpectedly, the son, victim of chronic vacillation, he has yet to figure out what his major is going to be or not to be. He can't decide how best to get home. Missing father's funeral, mother's wedding, and the coveted crown, he's first runner-up. Not the only son to ever face the ghost of a father, he doesn't handle the situation well, wanting nothing more than to curl up on mother's busy bed. Trim enough for the stage, the plot sheds 2 hours to fit into the movies. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are gone before they can be killed, something everyone regrets. Olivier and Alan Dent share writing credit. Mentioned is the aspiring author of the effusive first draft, unavailable for the rewrite. For Sir Larry, who directs himself, it's all black and white, just the simple tragedy of a man who couldn't make up his mind. Snow and the Academy Awards fall on the first day of spring in LA, 1949. Gowns under wraps, actresses in heels slip through Hollywood's icy streets more easily than usual. The great Ethel B., who has been in all the papers for weeks, touting Brother John's Greater Dane, presents the award for Best Picture, the winner's name trippingly on the tongue. The writing, which some find derivative and cliched, isn't nominated. In London to do a play with wife Vivian, Olivier celebrates with an extra drink after the show, as do the losers. This night, he has a bit of trouble falling asleep. His head reels in words, sublime, unforgettable words. So I have some Cambodian poems. I think it's taken me a little while to get used to life over there. This poem sort of chronicles some of my difficulty. There are 4 clocks, 2 on each of 2 towers framing the nameless building next to the Ministry of Women's Affairs. None mark the same time, and none correspond to any known hour in the world. Passers-by hurry to be late for something and sometimes bump into each other as they gaze in wonder at the intention and the number. No one in Phnom Penh who needs the time ever looks up, though I check each of the 5 days a week I pass this corner to confirm the gears still do not work as usual. I am always late for something, but memory has blessed me not to know for what. I know it's too late to die young and be counted among the good, long life affording too many trips over the near occasions of sin. No one is ever wrong in this country. Language allows the possibility, but manners do not. If someone phones thinking they have pressed the exact numbers to reach a devoted daughter, whom I assure them with the certainty of a June rain is not me, they are not wrong, merely shalom, confused. All those years my life slogged through one mistake after another, I was merely shalom'd. Ask a simple question here. Do you prefer red or white? And receive a simple answer. I don't really know. I'm not quite sure. It's hard to say exactly. Confusion blooms generously in these gardens of indecision. Mistakes do happen, things break. A favorite cup everyone remembers whole 1 minute is mysteriously and shatters the next, apparently by no one's hand or witness. A miracle of sorts, a cosmic, immaculate misconception. My mind believes in purpose, perhaps more out of need than evidence, cause and effect, logic straining to lay out straight lines of unassailable thought. I think, but not too well, therefore I am often confused. To think or not to think, the poor prince might well have asked. One is pointless, and the other has no point. Two roads converging on the same shadow washing over the brick wall at the end of a blind alley. Decades now of this thinking, and has it brought me one sliver closer to anything true? I'm not exactly sure. My thoughts turn to those clocks as marigolds to the sun, as the clocks themselves turn their lovely numbers toward an expectant world, hands full of bad news. Like many of us, they are not here for precision, but beauty. I have, well, I'm rather pleased with myself over this, you could say, but I have adopted 4 young men over there. So I've become a father at this late stage of my life. And 3 of them have married and have children, so I'm a grandfather now as well. Marcia, did I hear you ask for pictures? Yes. Pictures. So I'll gladly pass this around. So I mentioned the sons here. This poem is called Keeping Awake. Sleep does not waste time. Well, no more than keeping awake. I have failed at sleep this early morning, so I sit up and look out the window for the first oval glow to touch the small leaves of the longan tree I know to grow out there. One night, when sick and a much kinder person than today, I lay a fever to sleep between my mother and father. Success that night came at their expense, their worry wiping long, salty hours from my forehead until morning. Such acts of heroism do not become history. The hushed moments when someone's restive fingers console someone's ashen cheeks unfold far too commonly to seem remarkable or push the world a little further on its way. Now I have sons. Sometimes they come to me for advice. I never know what to say, nor long remember whatever words I speak to them. Sooner or later, they nod, smile, and go away. Like Hippocrates, I hope this does no harm. Before dawn, how bright the endless stars burn. Do I tell my adult children that endless troubles wait beneath these stars, some of it for them? They already know. Not everything turns to grief, but everything becomes elegy. So I proudly proclaim before you that I am a farmer. I have two small pieces of land. On one I grow like I do it, like I get my fingers dirty. We grow, that's a better word. We grow oranges and bananas and some rice, which we eat, through the year. And on the other piece of land I grow mangoes, and that's the part I'm writing about here, called Among Mangoes. The trees grow heavy with mangoes this year, a sentence so improbable 10 years ago I could not have conceived it. How modest seems the ambition that brought me to walk among these dozen or so trees this morning, inhaling assessments about their progress without a rumor of question that my life belongs to these rows. The dry season sits severe and pitiless on April. The heat arrests the resolve in every breath to hang full of expectation and sugar. Mangoes have no such expectation, though probably grateful for the intrusion of last night's rain into their conflict with the drought. I've forgotten the names of so many things it doesn't seem unusual anymore. Looking up again the correct spelling for the plural, I couldn't go wrong. Mangoes and mangoes both correct. From the Portuguese manga through the Malayalam, a new word I think best to look up later. From the Portuguese, like me, and through what? This feels like the worst heat of the season, even before the sun rises to the meridian, a destination as imagined as real, like the belief imposed over the muddied soil that makes a short walk possible from this tree to this tree, like the imprecision of history that draws an indifferent slog through the names of the missing. Sheltered under jade canopies, the pendulous fruit occupy the surrounding air with confidence, never trying to imagine how one thing moves even the smallest distance. Here, history explains the past on my terms. Something is moving, Einstein once replied when asked what he could know for sure. I read that on the side of a bus, a poster advertising his wax figure for a museum at Fisherman's Wharf. For almost 50 years, these words, or something like them, wake ahead of me and wait until my eyes shake off the blurred burn of embarrassment before filling my ear with the rank whisper that I know something. I am a mango farmer. The sky is cloudy. It is hot today. This poem is about another country, and I tell you honestly that I'm reading it today. It's an old poem, and I'm reading it because I like reading this poem. Could be worse reasons, right? Eating Chinese food in Spain. For a moment, I don't know where we are. Light passes from incandescent bulbs through paper shades painted with scenes of the Great Wall, muting the red enameled woodwork and the complexion of the smiling Chinese who wait by the cash register. This might be Los Angeles, new high street on any weekday night, mostly empty chairs, uncovered, tables seasoned with years of soy and cooking oils, 1,000 wishes for happiness bestowed on the lucky who look up from their noodles to find these blessings hanging on a wall. But it's 10 o'clock in Sevilla, hardly late for dinner in this country where only tourists sleep. And we come here to eat after hours discussing other possibilities because you want to and because I'm tired of talking about food. The waiter brings menus, says, "Buenas noches," and it's immediately clear of the 6 languages we all bring to this place, Spanish comes closest to having one in common. We pick out enough words to make a meal. Cerdo dulce y agrio, pollo con verduras revueltas, arroz frito con camarones, and because it is Spain, sangria for the price of tea. Everything is familiar and different. Plates piled with short-grained rice raised for paella, smaller portions of everything else sprinkled with Asian spice and sherry, cooked in the hot, dry promise of summer. No longer as hungry, I look up to find you looking back. At times like this, we don't seem so different. It doesn't seem we have gone to so much trouble to be eating this rice. Picking out a few recognizable features in the other without knowing what all the rest means, without knowing if we can get enough of what we want out of the parts. In this moment, looking at the soft lines of your face, I see how far we are from where we've come and wonder how life brings together so many divergent flavors to make something out of an improbable mix. I decide I need mustard for the egg roll, saying, "Mostaza, por favor," to the waiter who wrinkles his brow. Mostaza, I repeat to the same incomprehension. Mostaza. My Castilian surely perfect this time. But there are too many accents in the way, too many centuries of eating different food to be sure of the hunger which brings two people to the same table. Salsa amarilla, another tack that doesn't work. Mostardo, the waiter shaking his head until we agree whatever it is I'm asking isn't necessary after all. And one last poem for you. This one is a poem, it's a complicated poem actually. It's about my relationship with my brother and my father and our Portuguese heritage. It's called Festa. Festa means, fiesta, festival. Well, I describe it all here, but what it means in California for the Portuguese is it's a celebration around what we used to call the Holy Ghost. Each Portuguese community selects a queen for their particular festa. They march from the church to the street to a hall where food has been prepared, a big, fragrant, spicy broth that's served over bread, and anyone who comes can eat. Sopas, it's called sopas. 1969, 5 months since Nixon's inauguration, weeks before two men arrive on the moon. The war isn't going well and doesn't get better for another 40 years. That's me and Bob, my college roommate, standing in the blunt shade of elms on Florinda Street. California elms, so not really elms at all. There is nothing else here to tell the year from the last or from the dozen to come. Even my father's dark hair and handsome smile doesn't tell you, nor does the banner he carries for the Knights of Columbus and the honor of America, Portugal, and the Holy Ghost. And for his son going to war in a year, Robert, not me, the other good Bob standing at my side. Behind Dad, the parade of Portuguese queens and their courts, radiant in rhinestone tiaras and weeks of sewing. My young sister is stunning in white satin sheen, her carmine cape trimmed in imitation ermine, 500 seed pearls stitched to the velvet by our mother's hand. From the sidewalk, the two Bobs and I follow the long trains that sweep the street from St. Bridget's to the Fraternal Hall. Courtiers for the few blocks allegiance requires. I am born in the hospital just yards from this spot, something I don't mention to the others as I only think of it now. At the festa, the hungry do not wait for the authority of queens. Centuries before this morning sunrise, Dom Enrique's protégés sailed wooden ships laden with sweet tastes from the Moluccas to the Fraternal Hall kitchen. It is the scent of the Azores now, whose sons and daughters, bearing the names of light, come around the world to descend into Hanford, Kings County, California, United States of America, in this year of our Lord. Souza, Costa, Borba, Fagundes, Silva, Brazil, Diaz, Coelho, Perry, Azevedo, Gonzalez, Simas. The Latin syllables simmer in huge pots with Asian spices, cabbages, and hunks of beef until the aromas swarm the long tables covered in rolls of white butcher paper. Cota, Machado, Neves, Freitas, Madruga, Dutra, Martin, Duarte, Cabral, Lopes, Furtado, Ramos, Arnelas. Generations of impatience crave their sopas, sipping sodas or beer or cheap wine from Fresno, nibbling lupino beans and linguiça. Mendoz, Neto, Gaspar, De Campos, Santos, Faria, Melo, Vigario, Matos, Bragos, Sores, Monteiro, Pineiro, Cordeiro, Teixeira, Ladeiro, Silveira, Vieira, Siqueira, Ferreira, Pereira, Oliveira. The conversation grows louder when large pans of French bread blessed with sprigs of mint are brought to the tables. Louder still for the pans of opulent soup. I show Bob how to put pieces of bread on his plate and pour the transcendent broth over it. Robert knows how from birth. We are half finished before the brass band stabs at the Star-Spangled Banner and A Portuguesa, as close to grace as anyone here gets. The leaves at the top of the elms burn in midday fever. The sun gradually turns away from what we are doing, or the earth turns its back on the sun. But the heat gives way to a comfortable evening, and we return to eat, drink, dance the chamarita, and as dawn breaks over the Spice Islands and the present conflict. We are survivors. We can all say that after 4 million years of war. Robert goes to Vietnam and a year later comes back with himself. Bob goes to Ukiah to wait for prison or Canada and disappears. And I, well, it's a long story, but I come here. Thank you. Thanks very much.
David.